We do want to begin in Ontario, where health officials just announced 407 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 today. That is the highest single-day increase since the first week of June. With cases continuing to rise, the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, he has announced strict new measures.
Effective this morning, our government is taking immediate action to lower social gathering sizes in every region in Ontario. Informal gatherings across the province will be limited to 10 people indoors and 25 people outdoors for the next 28 days.
Okay, let's pick up on that point and bring in Laura McQuillan as she's on our top story today. Let's talk about these strict new measures, Laura, and the reasoning that we're hearing from government about them.
Yeah, something Doug Ford has been repeating over and over for weeks now: parties. Today, wild parties. We saw in the numbers today 71% of those new infections in people aged under 40, and that's the group that the government is really trying to get the message out to now with these restrictions on gathering sizes. Now, that includes anything that does resemble a party, like what we've seen at Toronto's Cherry Beach in recent weeks. Hundreds of people turning out with very little in the way of enforcement. Police officers standing around watching, but not making arrests. Very few, if any, bylaw tickets issued there as well. Doug Ford calling for a stronger crackdown. He has been critical of the federal government, of authorities who have not made arrests and the like. And today he was asked a question. Well, another type of gathering we've seen a lot of lately is protests. Black Lives Matter protests, but also anti-mask protests, especially in Toronto. Would the rules be enforced for those events as well? Here's how he responded.
Everyone has to follow the same rules. There can't be exceptions. You can't be going out there. Guys, let's use common sense. It's all hands on deck right now. We have to make sure we get our arms around this, and everyone has to pitch in. So do not go out there and these massive protests. That would be dangerous for the community.
So the Premier saying everyone has to follow the same rules, but whether it would be enforced with a crackdown on democratic protests, Michael, watch this space. One other interesting aspect of that press conference from the Premier and his officials was around testing. We are hearing some concerns about the delay in getting test results now. Some authorities warning of up to 7 days to wait for those. And what we heard from the Health Minister today was that 39,000 tests, a new record taken yesterday, and the province is working to ramp up both the lab capacity but also get tests into pharmacies to free up those testing centres as well, and they hope to have more to say on that front in the coming days.
Okay, so we'll keep listening to Ontario, but as we talk about these new numbers in Ontario, we should also point out that we're seeing a spike in COVID-19 cases in other provinces. Let's talk about Quebec and Alberta right now.
Yeah, Quebec, 427 cases today. That's the highest number we've seen since May in that province. They had been floating around 300 a day in recent days, which was cause for concern in itself, but now leaping into the 400s. So we will be expecting to hear more from authorities in Quebec on that front when they do next speak publicly. We know that today, or tonight rather, this weekend, police in Quebec will be visiting 1,000 bars. So in that city, that province as well, taking action against, people who might be partying. The plan being to inspect bars and restaurants to make sure they're following guidelines around distancing tables, no dancing allowed there, no karaoke allowed. That is part of Quebec's strategy to try and rein in that number, now getting into the 400s. And as you mentioned, Alberta, well, they say they've got their first likely case of transmission within a school. It appears there that someone at Waverley School in Edmonton passed on COVID-19 to someone else. Whether they were students, teachers, staff, officials haven't said at this point. They're saying it's not overly alarming that there would be cases transmitted in the school, but we now know that 12 students, 7 staff isolating, getting tested. And that's just one of many schools across the country already being hit by COVID-19 cases, Michael. Well, they're not necessarily spreading in schools. Cases are popping up, meaning classes have to be sent home to isolate, causing a lot of consternation for parents just after school restarted, giving them a lot of questions as well about the safety of being back at school, questions that we will, of course, continue to put to those officials in charge.
Okay, Laura, thank you for the update.